Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I see our attendee count is just building up now, so we'll give you all a few to settle in before I go over some things coming up here with us and stuff. Well, welcome back, everyone. My name is Tessa. I'm the Assistant Director here at the Triton Transfer Hub. Welcome if this is your first step session, or welcome back if you're someone who's been with us for our past 5 weeks now. So we've had a lot of great topics and things covered, and we're excited to have you here today. Financial aid is always a big area of questions, and we have one of our experts here to answer some of those for you today. As our folks continue to funnel in, I'll just go over some of the other aspects of STEP. So if this is one of your first STEP sessions or you haven't registered, this QR code here on the screen will allow you to get registered for the program. This means that within 24 hours of each of the sessions, we'll send you a recording of everything. We also are taking furious notes behind the scenes, and we'll send you a note sheet of everything, including any of the links that are mentioned during the session. And then if you wanted to attend any of our socials that are in person, this also saves you some parking spots, and also make sure that we get enough food to accommodate you for our socials that are happening later in these next couple months. This is one of our transfer talks every Wednesday at 3 p.m. with the exception of the 4th of July week. We will have our most asked questions and hottest topics of summer here in a webinar. Today we have financial aid. Next week and then the next coming weeks, we'll have health and other areas as you prepare to turn in your vaccine records and all of those different items. As I've mentioned before, our expert who's in the room with us today is financial aid based. So our Q&A box is not going to be super helpful for things like advising or transcripts. Those are things that you can direct to us, or now you have the access to advisors via the new Triton Advising that opened today. We have some socials that are coming up. Some are identity-based and some are topic-based. Those are going to be available. There's one in 2 weeks. And we also have one next week if you are somebody who is military connected that also talks about some of the resources for our military connected students. This gives you a chance to be in a real Zoom, not a webinar, be face-to-face, interact with each other, do some icebreakers, and meet your fellow incoming transfer students, which is always nice to build some community. Looking ahead, our next Wednesday session is Your Health at UCSD. What this means is how to turn in your vaccine records, or if you're waiving vaccines. Any questions about the UC SHIP plan or health insurance here on campus. We have all of our health experts who will be here with us next Wednesday and answer all of these questions. Next Thursday, we have our Military Connected Transfers Connect. So you'll get some info, some overview of benefits if you are a military connected student, and then get a chance just to meet fellow military connected students. This means you might be a dependent or a spouse, or you might be a ROTC, veteran, or active duty military. All of you are welcome in that session next week. And then following that, we have a Tuesday Connect session, which is just hotspots on and around campus. We'll be onboarding our summer peer coaches, and they will talk about some of their favorite places to eat, to study, where to be, and then it also gives you a chance just to get to know one another in those sessions as well. Later this summer, we'll have our research and involvement series. So if you are passionate about hopping in and getting started with research when you start here, or maybe an internship or an on-campus job, our research and involvement coordinator hosts a series that will build up to make sure that you are prepared for all of these things. And we'll also host a current transfer student panel on how they got connected. And finally, we have our transfer success series, which will be led by Allie, who's here, and we'll give a little shout out to her program.
Awesome. Thanks, Tessa. Yeah, so we have the Transfer Success series coming up towards kind of more of the end of summer, but it's a really great opportunity to learn how you can leverage your academic success that you've built at your previous institution and make sure that you're able to use those skills effectively at UCSD. So we'll do some resource mapping and going over different tips for like adjusting to the quarter system and adjusting to UCSD life. And then you'll also hear tips given to us by current transfer students at UCSD about what's been successful for them and how they have enhanced their academic well-being and personal well-being through different resources, skills, things like that. So super excited, and yeah, I'll pass it back to Tessa.
So with that, I see we have our many more attendees in the room, and we also have our wonderful presenter here. So we are going to focus on our main topic for today, and that is going to be financial aid and preparing for our incoming year. So thank you so much for being with us here today, Bronwyn. I have our PowerPoint opening on this screen, and it's a little slow, but it's here. But thank you for being, and I'll pass off to you.
Oh, no worries. Thank you so much for having me today. So hello, everyone online. My name is Bronwyn Garrison, and I'm an Assistant Director at the Financial Aid and Scholarships Office here at UC San Diego. So it's my pleasure to be here today to talk to you about how financial aid works at UC San Diego. So it's going to be specifically about financial aid. Going to be touching upon other processes and offices and stuff, so just some things to keep in mind. But really my goal is to kind of get you prepared on next steps, things that are coming up as you go through the summer and then move into the fall quarter. So it looks like, yeah, we're good to go. Thank you. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. Also to Q&A, as mentioned, things are going on behind the scenes. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. We should have plenty of time after the questions too. And then of course, today's not the last day for any questions. So we'll have all our contact information as well. So really focused on getting prepared for your incoming year at UC San Diego. So wherever you're coming from, the processes might seem familiar. Might be some overlap, but then some differences as well too. For example, being on the quarter system, kind of how things are done at UC San Diego, but we want to get you as prepared as possible. So I'm going to start by talking a bit about timelines, some things that are coming up to be aware of, how you actually accept your financial aid offer. So in the next couple of months, you're going to be getting an email to check your offer on the financial aid portal on Triton Links. So we'll have some screenshots of that, kind of what to expect and to look for. Some tips on helping budget for the quarter. So we're a quarter school. So while we do have summer sessions, primarily fall, winter, and spring, are your 3 quarters, and financial aid is split into those 3 quarters. Also be talking a bit about how refunds work. That's all through a separate office in our campus that we work with very closely, Student Financial Solutions. A couple of other things that are going on behind the scenes that you don't need to be experts on, but can impact financial aid. We've got CAA, Commencement of Academic Activities. So I'll talk a bit about what that means. Satisfactory academic progress, which is separate from the requirements maintained by and monitored by your college. There's some overlap, but things to be aware of. A couple of them are already saying it's 26, 27. So just a couple of things that not that far, it'll fly by, just to note maybe on your calendar for when they do come up to set you up for success for 26, 27. And then also just resources. If you leave here today and you're like, what is she talking about? You can always reach out to our office too, and we'll have these slides available as well too. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. So timeline-wise, so yeah, we're already way into mid-June, heading into July. Soon enough, you'll be registering for classes. And that's the trigger for our partners over in the Student Financial Solutions Office to release your billing statement. So for the fall quarter, if you're living on campus, it's going to have your housing fees. Otherwise, students will have their registration fees, their tuition and registration fees that are going to show on that online billing statement. We'll have the link in a few slides, but the billing statement, the online billing statement, is scheduled to become available September 3rd, 2025. So as long as you're registered in classes, that'll be the trigger for the registration fees to post to your online billing statement. Now, in terms of financial aid, if you're enrolled in classes, ideally in at least 12 units, waitlisted units don't count towards registration for financial aid, but you will show your pending or estimated aid on your billing statement. So at that time, you'll be able to compare, these are the fees for the fall quarter, again, tuition and fees and housing if you live on campus, and then anything else you've decided to charge to your student account, and then you'll show your financial aid that's ready to go. Actually September 16th is when the estimated aid actually turns to dispersed aid. So you'll be able to see that money post to your student account for the fall quarter. And then the published fee deadline for the fall quarter is September 24th. So prior to that, you can see if you're accepted aid, it's going to be enough to cover your billing statement. If for some reason you decide not to accept all of your financial aid, for example, loans that you're offered, or if there's still a balance that's due, you want to make sure that that balance is taken care of by the registration fee deadline. Housing has its own fee deadlines, but that's going to be the big one as it relates to your classes. And if your students aren't paid, that's when students are potentially dropped for non-payment by the registrar's office. But we've got plenty of time ahead to look forward to the fee before the fee deadline, so just getting you prepared. And then if you are receiving more financial aid than the balance due that's on your account, you're going to be issued a refund, and we'll talk a little bit more about it later. But yeah, generally that comes out first week of the quarter, first week of instruction. And this is going to be one of my many plugs for signing up for direct deposit, because that's going to get you a refund sooner rather than later. Then if you're living off campus as well too versus on, then you'll have that money to pay your rent for the next 3 months of the school year. Sorry, for the quarter, and then it begins all over again. So let's go ahead and just move on to the next slide. So just something you wanted to emphasize, if you have any questions about the billing statement itself online, refunds, our partners over at Student Financial Solutions are going to be the folks that you want to talk to. I just have a link to the website right here, but if you look up SFS, Google it, you're going to find them, no worries. They're located physically in the same building as us too on campus too, so if you wanted to swing by and see them. And then also, if you don't have this saved, it's a good reference, having the calendar for 25-26. It has all those important dates in terms of when you can start registering for classes, when grades are going to come out, things like that. So that's a good thing to have handy as well too. Okay, so let's move on to,
And we will have Student Financial Services have their own step session later this summer on how to pay your bills, because that's a separate but parallel area here to financial aid. So if that's something coming up of how do I pay what's left of my tuition bill, we will have some of their great folks here in late July with us.
Oh, awesome. So that'll just roll on in. So that's great. So enrollments and timelines. We do say here students are encouraged to enroll full-time each quarter. So full-time for students is considered 12 units. Something to keep in mind is that, again, waitlisted units don't count as enrolled. So you may be waitlisted in a class, and some financial aid, you do need to be enrolled 12 units for all the money to disperse to your student account. So that's a common question that does come up, is when the bill's out, I'm enrolled in 12 units, but if 8 of those units are waitlisted, that things will continue to update nightly as you actually get into your courses. But that's a common reason why students might not see their accepted financial aid showing on their billing statement. But some of this information might not apply, but just as a heads up, if you are getting the Cal Grant for the middle class scholarship, this is you don't have to have this memorized, but just to give an idea, yeah, full-time 12 units, but if you're in 3/4 time, the 9 to 11, half-time 6 to 8 units, and less than half-time, that can impact how much of the grant for the year is going to post to your account. And then on the right here, we have the Pell Grant. We have this chart on our website, and again, we don't expect folks to have this memorized, and the rules actually changed within the last couple of years to enrollment intensity. So based on your units, you can see here a percentage of your Pell Grant will disperse to your student account. And then that can fluctuate. So as you add units, drop units, that continues to update on your account. And usually it's through the second Friday of each quarter is when that freeze happens. And I know that link that we had to the calendar has those freeze dates as well too. So if you adjust your enrollment after that date, then unless you're completely withdrawing, then the Pell Grant, Cal Grant, MCS isn't going to adjust. But yeah, if we want to move on to the next slide here. So accepting your financial aid offer, if we want to go ahead and move to the next the next slide. So there's a lot of different types of financial aid, federal, state, institutional, private, grants, loans, all of them, and they all have their own rules as well too. But there's some commonalities as well. So based on your FAFSA or your DREAM Act application, depending on which you apply, we generate a financial aid offer. When you initially admitted, if you have financial aid, you would have received something on your admissions portal under the financial aid tab. So what we're actually going to do is generate an actual financial aid offer. It's possible that things might have changed from the original estimate. If you have a change in housing status, if you're going part-time, if you have outside scholarships coming in, or receiving VA, for example, depending on the timing or when these notifications come in, they could impact your initial offer. But we just passed our priority filing deadline, which was our document deadline rather, if, for example, you were selected for verification to turn in tax documents. Or documentation of citizenship if you're a FAFSA filer. If the Department of Education selected you to have to submit these documents, we did have a priority deadline of 6/15. So not everyone has these requirements, but if you did, we would have reached out. And if you have any questions at all, definitely reach out to us on this one, because that deadline just passed, but we want to be able to work with you to make sure your money's all ready to go for the fall quarter. But once we have these financial aid packages available, it's on Trident Link. So there's a lot of different things on Trident Link. Enrolling for classes, you can see that screenshot in the top right, signing up for direct deposit, linking to your bills, just about everything. But one of those is financial aid. But once your financial aid offer is ready to go, we're going to send you an email. Let's see. So we have by the end of August. It's most likely going to be sooner than that. We're hoping even sooner this year. So the key thing is to keep looking at your UC San Diego email address. That's your main form of contact for not just from financial aid, but from all departments on campus pretty much. So any updates are going to be sent to there with instructions. But when you may even be able to go in now, you might not be able to see your offer, but you may see requirements. So if you wanted to go to Trident Link, log in and select the 2025-26 from the drop down, then you should be able to log into your financial aid portal to see if you have any requirements. And another key thing too is accepting your financial aid prior to the fee deadline. Some of these things like loans, if you get later in the year and you realize I need to take out some of my student loans, that's fine. But if you want to have everything ready to go by the fee deadlines, you do want to make sure there's processing time that's accounted for that as well too. But yeah, Trident Links where you can accept and decline any loans or work study. We automatically accept that grant money and scholarships. As long as you're eligible for it, you shouldn't need to take any additional action. But yeah, let's roll into the next slide. So here we have a screenshot of requirements, documents, and tasks. So this is usually around the top of the screen. Again, we're emphasizing that 6/15 deadline. But just some important things that we have on here. Some of these are actionable items or more important reminders. We have a document submission tool where students can submit documents online. So either ones that were requested by the office, by our office, or if you're looking to initiate an appeal request, it's all done online. So it's definitely very convenient, but you do have to register for it. So we have information about that. Satisfactory academic progress, we have a slide coming up on that, but you can link to it to find out more about that. Information about waiving that health insurance, if that's something that you want to do. That's a great way to save funds if you have your own health insurance. And then other important information like signing up a direct deposit if you're going to get a refund. You do need also to provide consent if you want someone other than yourself to get access to your financial aid information. So one of your parents, for example. You do need to submit an online form, so we have permission to share that information. With your loan history, links to our forms pages, information about loan disclosures, all on Trident Link if you decide to accept your loans. All loan requirements are completed online. So it pretty much walks you through the process, but you can always reach out if you have questions. Information about Plus Loan, we have another link to the submission tool, so definitely a lot of info out there. And then if you need proof of your financial aid for some sort of outside agency, something showing what money you're getting for the year from us, you can always click on that link and that preps the document to print up a copy of your letter. And then we have, this is just a screenshot so you can get an idea of how the financial aid actually shows on your student account. So, rather your student account on your financial aid portal on Trident Link. So here you can kind of see where loans work study if you decide to accept or decline or accept less of the loan, then you can do that through here. But the really handy thing is that it shows the amounts of the year, but then also breaks down for fall, winter, and spring. And then you can see how much is paid to your student account, so that'll gradually adjust by thirds as the money pays out for the quarter. Just a few other things of note. The Cal Grant in this example shows is unconfirmed. So for transfer students who are eligible for the Cal Grant, we do receive rosters from CSAC, California Student Aid Commission, who tells us who's eligible for Cal Grants and who isn't. And once we've confirmed that, and there's a little eye on there too for more information, that will change from unconfirmed to confirmed. And then note on the middle class scholarship, because the amount can be impacted by outside scholarships that you receive or changes in your housing status. Once those have been finalized for the fall quarter, or more so finalized, which is usually after the introduction begins, that's when we work with the California Student Aid Commission to actually post those middle class scholarships to your student account. So that's another common question too, is asking, where's my middle class scholarship? So those, again, are usually processed later in the fall quarter, so we can make sure we're not taking any money away if there's any adjustments to your financial aid. Let me give you the right amount. But yeah, let's go ahead and move to the next slide.
I do see a question in the chat that I was going to just mention while we're on this slide. We have someone asking, how do they accept their loans and their grants? And that's what these little bubbles right here. These are actually going to be a button system once your aid is available. So this is wanting to make sure we're answering it while we have this beautiful diagram ahead of you of how to do that.
Yeah.
But this would be where you can accept and decline each of these before confirming. But is this available to them at this moment, or is that once their official offer comes in? So that's why they're not seeing it look like this quite yet.
Yeah, you're not going to see this right now. We've just started working on getting things ready for financial aid packages. But once it's available, we are going to send you an email to log onto your Trident link. So you can log in right now, but you're not going to see this section of the screen. It's not going to be available right now, but that's, yep, exactly it. Yeah. If there's anything else in the questions that comes up, that's the timing on the screen, definitely chime in. I want to make sure.
I did want to ask one clarifying question. So someone said what they're seeing now is their financial aid offer. Is that the equivalent of what their estimated financing plan is going to be?
Well, when you're initially admitted, we have an estimate of, I mean, it's always going to be an estimate in case something comes down or we get conflicting information and have to make adjustments. It should be pretty close to what was on that college financing plan on the admission portal. It's possible it may be different though. For example, we actually, because the health insurance wasn't finalized, we used a different amount. I think it was off by $80. So that's going to that might explain some of the differences. We don't initially, generally we don't initially post the for those eligible who opt in for UC San Diego health insurance, we generally post a separate grant if you're eligible, depending on your eligibility, to the financial aid offer. But generally we don't do that until later in the quarter or closer to the start of the quarter, because we're waiting to see if you waive your health insurance or not with the health center. So, and then also we're working with housing to find out if you are actually living on campus or not, because that question's not on the FAFSA anymore. But generally it should be pretty similar. Like there's some things like based on your grade level, you're eligible for certain loan amounts. So it should be pretty close, but those aren't, we're just starting to work on those now. So you may still see your estimate on the admissions portal, but it's not, that part there with the offer isn't currently available. Should be available in July. It might even be available sooner, but yeah, keep an eye on your UC San Diego email address. So hopefully my rambling answered some of that. But just a little bit about the types of money that we have. So yeah, the federal, state, institutional, private. One type is grants and scholarships. So you might hear it referred to as gift aid, but it's free money. So unlike a loan, you don't need to pay it back. As long as you're eligible for it, we're going to go ahead and offer it to you. So some examples are the federal Pell Grant, if you file the FAFSA based on the results of your FAFSA. There's a Cal Grant, so CSAC, California Student Aid Commission, gets a copy of your FAFSA, determines if you're, or DREAM Act application, determines if you're eligible for state grant money. So that could be Cal Grant or middle class scholarships. Again, that money pays out based on your units enrolled. So for our institutional grant money and for loans, you have to be at least half time 6 units, but there's 12 units for some of this other money. And again, we automatically accept the grants and scholarships that are out there, and we apply them towards the charges on your student account. Okay, and then talking a little bit about loans, is most financial aid packages do include some loan component as an option to help meet your costs. So some different types of loans that you may see out there. There's a federal subsidized loan and federal unsubsidized loan. They're both student loans. The big difference is that the interest doesn't start accruing once the money posts to your student account for subsidized loans, but it does for unsubsidized loans. And interest rates vary from year to year, federal loans, but the repayment doesn't begin. Usually it's 6 months after you've graduated, but if you, for some reason, withdraw, there's a grace period, and that's when the money starts, or that's when repayment starts as well. I don't know if folks are going to see any university loans, but that's something that we do offer for some students. It's more of a limited fund that the campus has versus the federal loans, which come from the federal government. And then if you're a dependent for financial aid purposes, there's the Parent Plus loan as well too, which, unlike the student loans, is applied for by the parent, but it does go through a credit check as well, and repayment begins while students are in school. So those are the different types of loans you may see as part of your financial aid offer, depending on your eligibility. And then I think next, is work study. So I want to talk a little bit about that. So unlike the grants and the loans, if you accept it, then the money posts to your student account directly. It's an option if you want to earn money while you're in school. You can work on campus, off campus, and we have our Career Center and Handshake tool where you can apply for multiple jobs or different jobs on and off campus. You don't necessarily need work study in order to work. I know eons ago when I was a student, I didn't have a work study job, but I worked while I went to school, and I know there's different other non-work study necessarily opportunities on campus, which I'm sure they'll be talking about more about those opportunities, especially for transfer students. But specific to the work study, so rather than getting a set amount, you get paid every 2 weeks based on your wages and your rate per hour, and then it's up to 20 hours per week. And the real focus is on gaining that work experience while you're in school, and then also developing those contacts on campus. But I just wanted to go ahead and put a link in the chat to our work study page. We really focus on the financial aid side of the process. If you're, it is a limited fund, majority is federal funds, so not everyone is offered it, but I would still encourage you, even if you're not offered work study, there is employment opportunities as well too. But the website kind of gives a nice overview of how the process works, and if you decide to accept it, it would be part of your financial aid offer. And then if you're hired in a work study position, then you'll start earning that money through your job and your hours. The hours that you work and the rate of pay. That's a little bit about how work study works. That's weird, I had that transition there. Oh, sorry, I don't know why it's set up that way. Sorry about that. Oh, okay, I think we want to go. Okay, I think it might be hidden in the opposite direction.
Yes. We are going back.
Sorry.
So sorry.
No worries.
We're here.
We got a little preview for what's coming up. Okay, quarterly budget. Oh, awesome. Okay. So Student Financial Solutions is going to talk more about, I'm sure, how the billing statement works in the registration, but just as a kind of a preview, and things kind of talked about before, is making sure you have enough to cover there's direct costs and indirect costs. So direct costs are things that you're actually billed by the university. So there'll be the registration fees, tuition, and then housing if you're on campus, and then anything else you charge to your account, say from the bookstore or things like that. So the big thing, and this is a screenshot from our website, we give you the full amount we show for the 9 months of the school year. Some are separate. And then something to keep in mind too is your if you're living on campus, considering your housing charges as well too. If you live on campus, housing is going to pay towards your balance due. For the tuition fees, those direct costs there, we have the value circled, but you can see it's the same amount. It's for the incoming class, it's 2487. Again, estimates if something was to change coming out from a state or a region level, but this is the amount that we expect. But as an incoming student, that tuition and fees, the 14,934, is a set cohort rate. So that amount should stay the same. It's for up to 6 years, so you should be it should be wrapped up before then, but just something to keep in mind. There's campus fees, which can change from year to year. There's the health insurance. This is the amount. So this is actually different than what we used on the admissions offer because we didn't get the finalized amount until after that. But it's less, so that's good. And then there's a one-time document fee. So if after that you charge it for the first quarter, but if you want to order transcripts, any documents like that from the registrar's office, you don't have to pay a separate charge. So you actually take this amount here and you split it into thirds for fall, winter, and spring. And then we have note here as well to the on-campus, the living expenses, food and housing. This is an estimate for the average student for the 9-month school year, but depending on which housing plan you go with, which meal plan, that's going to determine how much that's actually going to be for you and what will appear in your billing statement. And then we do have other things noted here as well too, an estimate of books and supplies, personal expenses, transportation expenses. Depending on your major, your instructor, that will determine how much your books and supplies are actually going to be. We just use an average amount to determine the types, to determine your financial aid package. But those aren't things, you won't see a bill for $13.65 for books at any point. So just, but it's still you still pay for books and supplies while you're in, and course material fees and things like that while you're in school. So we want to factor that in. But if we move on to the next slide, we give, general budget tips. Add your financial aid and then divide it by 3. That's the one way to summarize it. So your quarterly charges, again, split into fall, winter, and spring. So if you want an estimate right now before that bill comes out for fall, if you're living on campus, we highly recommend, if you're receiving financial aid, you can opt to have yourself charged for the full amount of housing and meal for the year, or have it split into months or split into quarters. Go with the quarter option, because that way, because we split financial aid into quarters for fall, winter, and spring, that way you may not, you won't have any additional charges for the quarter unless you charge it for your housing. And then off campus, I mean, really the direct thing you're going to be charged to your account unless you opt to charge other things is your tuition and fees. So if you know what your rent's going to be, an estimate for each month and about how much you spend on food and groceries and things like that, you can use that as an estimate to see if your accepted aid's going to be enough to cover those costs. And then with parents, you may still be charged rent. We do factor in for housing for living with parents, but the big thing that's on your account is going to be that tuition and fees. Okay, and then next one, financial aid refunds. So as mentioned earlier, you can, once the bill's out, you'll be able to review any pending financial aid that's on your billing statement that's ready to go. That amount's going to adjust daily until we start actually dispersing the money. So if you add units, allowing for 1 to 2 business days for the updates to come through on your bill, you'll be able to go ahead and see that. And if you have more than enough financial aid to cover your charges, you're going to get that refund. That's all done through Student Financial Solutions. And then I think this is my 3rd or 4th plug for direct deposit, signing up for that if you can. So the sooner you can do that, the sooner you'll be getting your refund. Otherwise, you'll have to come by and pick up a refund check. So I'm not sure how soon folks can go in and sign up for direct deposit, but it is on, it should be ready to go on Trident Link. But if it's not, I'm sure they'll have information on when that's set to become available. So definitely something that you want to do if you're going to be getting more aid than the balance due. Okay, so commencement of academic activity. just something to keep in the back of your head and in your mind. In order to be eligible for financial aid, you do need to start in your classes. Where schools don't require to take attendance, but Department of Education still requires that we have some process in place to verify that you did something for your classes, either attend, submitted a task, completed some assignment it can be online too. Your instructors are all responsible for ensuring that that information is updated systematically. Most of our instructors use Canvas. We have another tool that they can use as well to say, yes, this student has started their classes. So this process has been around for a couple of years right now. We do have timelines by the second Friday of each quarter. You'll notice that aligns with the freeze date for financial aid for each quarter. Your instructors have sent multiple notices to make sure that they're completing this process. Students are notified too if for some reason your instructors haven't done this. And then just to be aware, failure to certify attendance can result in the loss of your financial aid. So if there's no documentation that you started your classes, where this process is pretty much ingrained right now, but if for some reason your instructor doesn't do that piece, and there's other ways for us to confirm, we work directly with instructors and students on this too. So it's definitely not, you lose all your aid and then you're out of luck. And we also look for passing grades as well too, because that means you started your classes because you passed your classes, got grades. So so that's one process that happens in the background when you start. And then another thing to keep in mind, I think next slide, is satisfactory academic progress. SAT for financial aid. We have our policy published on our website if you want to check that out, but as separate from your academic requirements and those checks that are done by your college and your dean's office and your advisors, students, in this case for undergrad students, are required to maintain an annual GPA of 2.0. There's a PACE component as well too, so we outline how incompletes, fail, and grades and things like that factor into that. But as a first-year transfer student, you would likely be a third and fourth, fall under the third or fourth year category. So after your third, it would be your first year, but to us your third year, because you'll be incoming transfer student, making sure that cumulative you've passed at least 90 units. And then for maximum time frame, students can receive financial aid up to the 150% of the published links of the program. So what does that mean? If you have to complete your degree within 258 units, otherwise that's the limit for receiving financial aid. Now there's ways to appeal. We send out notifications once spring grades are posted to any students who are in danger or students who don't meet these requirements. And you have a chance over summer to work on adding units. So if you're taking classes at UC San Diego or other places as well too. But again, the information's on our website, and then we have that LinkedIn trial link too. So just something to keep in the back of your mind as you're moving forward at UC San Diego. And then next step. So that was all this year, but federal regulation law passed that as of October 1st, the annual FAFSA has to be available to all students. And if you filed the FAFSA in the last couple of years, you can kind of see why that came around. But filing your FAFSA or your DREAM Act application, depending on your eligibility, that's going to be available October 1st. Usually the annual deadline is March 2nd of the following year. So in this case, it'd be March 2nd of 2026. Sometimes that deadline changes depending on emergencies that have happened. I know it was extended this year, first for those who are impacted by the fires in LA County. But that, so it's potential it can be extended, but I would just make sure that you file your FAFSA by March 2nd and keep an eye out for deadlines. But that's when it becomes available, so it really doesn't waste any time. And then in terms of continuing UC San Diego scholarship applications, while you're just beginning in the fall quarter, it's your first quarter at UC San Diego, and your first year, your admissions application acted as your scholarship application for UC San Diego scholarships. That is going to change as you're moving ahead. There's a separate scholarship application. Usually it's available on our website around late fall. You can always check in with us. Usually we have a pretty big campaign But we want to make sure that you don't miss out on those scholarship opportunities, in this case for 26, 27. So things move very fast in the quarter system, definitely. But just some dates, and again, we'll be advertising it. So just something to keep in the back of your mind as well too as you're moving ahead. Okay, and then some additional financial aid resources. So a lot of this information is on our website, so I encourage you to visit us at fas.ucsd.edu. Something that does come up is we work on those initial financial aid packages, and we'll get those out to you. But there are situations, for example, you may have additional costs. We have our cost of attendance appeal form. Generally, if we can increase that cost of attendance, you may be eligible for additional loan to help cover those additional costs. Also, there's our student aid index appeal. So the FAFSA and DreamAct application are based on income information from 2 years ago, prior year. A lot can happen in that time. And if there was some sort of loss of income, depending on your circumstances, it's possible you can appeal to have that SAI, that number, which impacts the amount of money that you're eligible for, to have that adjusted. Generally, those appeals are available later in the summer, and generally they're reviewed after the fall fee deadline, because really our focus is getting initial financial aid packages out. But those appeal processes are out there. So when they do become available, it's all online process. It's going to be on that link that's on our website right here on our forums page. But if you look up FAS forums, that should get you to the right link. So when they become available, usually cost of attendance is available in August. So for example, if you need to purchase a computer, we can potentially have funds to help meet that, or other costs as well too. And it's available throughout the year as well, but that's when it becomes available. Okay, and then with that, I think I just have a couple more. Follow us on Instagram. We have a lot of good updates that are out there, so it's kind of a handy resource. You can see some of the screens right here. So for example, I think once we start off putting out our financial aid offers on Trident Link, there's probably going to be something that'll post there just as a general announcement. So it's kind of handy, especially for big deadlines, having that up as well too. And I think with that, if we want to head to the last slide, we'll have we have time to Q&A, but if you have any additional questions after today, I encourage you to go to our contact us page. We have different ways of reaching us. We have virtual counseling, drop-in advising. We have our phones. We also have, there's a student portal as well too, that other departments on campus use as well too, where you can submit your questions. Before swinging by office, I encourage you to go to our website and just double check our hours too. For example, we're going to be closed this Thursday. I think the campus is all closed this Thursday as well too. But then if for some reason we extend or need to adjust our hours, you'll get to see that before swinging by campus. But with that, I think I threw a lot of information out for folks.
Very, very helpful information. And we have some great questions here in the chat. I wrote some themes that I was seeing coming through. So if you don't mind, I'll ask just a couple that will cover questions for a few folks. So
definitely,
one of those first ones is, what if I said I would live on campus and then I ended up not living on campus? How will that affect my aid? And then kind of a sub question someone else asked is it higher aid for one way or the other?
Yes, that's a very good question. I just want to bring up our website to the side right here. So I'm just going to pop two links in the chat. One of them is the estimated cost of attendance. And I think we had on the earlier slide, but for living on campus, the overall estimated cost of attendance estimate we use is $44,892. And then it's slightly higher actually for living off campus. Individual components are different. But what we do is we survey our student population. Also, we work with surveys from the UC Office of the President as well to housing. We get data from housing, and that's how we generate our numbers. So generally speaking, I mean, part of it too depends on which housing plan you go with as to what your actual housing costs will be and your lease. But in terms of the generating the financial aid offer, generally, it looks like for the upcoming year, it's going to be slightly more expensive to live off campus than it is to live on campus. So if you are changing your housing status, I don't remember I mentioned earlier, the FAFSA doesn't give us a housing status at all. Doesn't allow you to let us know. So we do have a form. I think the form, I'm not sure if the form's still available. If it is, it's going to be on your Triton link where you can indicate if you're going to be living on or off campus. And we also have a housing page as well too with frequently asked questions. So I'm going to pop that in the chat as well. And one of the questions is about the differences between living on campus and off campus. But I'm going to double check what we say. So we project, let's see, how do I change? One of the questions is, how do I change my housing status? So if you go to, we have a link to it's a services and support portal, it's our student portal, but there's an option to update your housing status. So you can go to that, select, there's a drop down for housing status validation. And you can go ahead and report a difference in your housing status. And we haven't started financial aid packaging, so if you're coming in right now with this, I think our default was just to package everyone on campus, but saying that you're living off campus, it's possible we may go back and ask for some sort of documentation of that, depending on, I think one example might be is if we saw there was a house, we get lists from housing, and it says a housing charge, and we have something saying, I'm not living on, if there's some sort of conflict, we may ask for more information, but you should be able to report that to us now. And then when the packages do come out, based on the timing, we may already be, it may reflect living off campus or with parent, depending on what you're changing to. But yeah, that's a great question.
And then we also had a couple folks ask about that UC Health Grant. So is that something that they're required to take? Does it impact the amount of financial aid that they're getting? How does that piece work?
So for the health insurance, we estimated on your offer, if you were to be opt in for UC San Diego health insurance, and for those eligible, there would have been, I think it was for most students, it was a $1,500 grant that appeared on the college financing plan. If you decide to opt out of that, you wouldn't be eligible for that grant. So we would, at this point with initial financial offers, we don't, because of the waiver deadlines, we don't find out until a little further along after the fee waiver deadlines, once the health office has made their decisions on who, because I know there's a lot of criteria that they look at, and they may speak to it as well too. There's one of their, because they have the health folks are going to be at it sounds like an upcoming session, June 25th. That's what I wrote down. But generally what happens is they'll send the information over to the billing office, who'll go ahead and waive the charge. So part of it is the timing of when they do that. But if you opt to waive out, then it's possible your aid may be adjusted. But if you stay enrolled and you're eligible for it, that grant money is going to stay there. So it really depends on when they're processed and if you opt in, if you waive or not. There's a lot of moving pieces.
Okay, so if they accept, if they deny UC SHIP, do they get that fund reimbursed to them? Would they still have the money of the health grant, or is the health grant reliant on them selecting UC SHIP?
Yeah, so the default is that you're automatically enrolled. So if you're enrolled in it, then you're eligible and you have the financial aid, the room in your financial aid package, then you're going to receive the grant. If for some reason down the line you waive it, then it's possible it's going to be taken away. So it's not really, I guess, you don't opt in, you opt out. So if you opt out, you're not eligible for it. If you opt in, if you don't opt out, then it's possible you're still going to get that grant money. So you would,
sorry, yeah. So a couple of questions coming in clarifying.
Yeah.
So if you do opt out, do you still get the health grant? No. So that's removed from your financial aid package. So you'll be receiving the same amount of aid and getting health insurance if you keep the health grant. versus
Yes.
if you don't take the health insurance, you're still going to receive the same aid, but you won't have that grant included.
Yeah, and that's not including all the caveats that if there's changes to your aid package. I mean, there's different things to consider, but if you don't, if you opt out, then you're not going to get grant money to help cover health insurance. I guess that's the bottom line. But the good news is if you opt out, because I think the health insurance was $29.47, because we're not going to be able to fund the full amount with a grant generally, is that you're not going to have that charge will be waived from your account. So that's one way to save funds as well, save money as well too.
We also had a lot of questions regarding the middle class scholarship or scholarships in general. If there's things that like that are funded by FAFSA, do they need to apply for those individually, or if they're eligible, is it just added automatically to their package?
If you, I guess there's a couple things here. For general UC San Diego scholarship, so that's not the middle class scholarship, that's through the state. Your admissions application was your scholarship application for your first year. So if you were offered any, then that would have been part of your college financing plan on your admissions offer, and then that would show on your actual financial aid package. And then for subsequent years, it's a separate application. Now you can decide to apply for scholarships in your community. If your community college offers scholarships, there's other UC San Diego scholarships that aren't administered by our office. They all have their own deadlines, timelines. You can definitely apply for those if you wanted to. Now the middle class scholarship, that's a state scholarship. Generally that's awarded later in the fall for those who are eligible for it. A big thing is that if you have outside other scholarships coming in, or if you change your enrollment status to part-time, or you change your housing status, those are all things that can potentially affect your middle class scholarship eligibility. So rather than giving it to you up front with the risk that we're going to bill you for it, we generally, and most UCs and I think CSUs do this as well too, is generally we don't start posting those to financial aid office until later in the fall, because things could come in and we don't want to give you money and then take it away because you received $1,000 outside scholarship from another organization or things like that. So it's possible you may get things from CSAC, the California Student Aid Commission, saying you're getting the middle class scholarship, but CSAC doesn't know about outside scholarships and other things and changes your enrollment that leaves it to the school. So if you're going to be receiving it, usually we have the timelines posted on our website as well too, but that's usually going to be later in the fall quarter when we're able to post them for the year. Again, because we don't want to give money and then take it away because it turns out you weren't eligible for it. That kind of that helps with that, yeah. But scholarships, it's possible you may get, if you did get a UC San Diego scholarship for this upcoming school year for 25-26, you could still apply for 26-27, and that's a separate application that becomes available. On this screenshot right here, if you go to types of aid and then go to scholarships, there's information about how that process works.
I've had a couple questions here that fall under that cost of aid appeal, a parent's income changing, or maybe parents aren't contributing to the cost of attendance. Do you mind, where on the website would they get to that cost of aid appeal that was mentioned? Or not cost of aid appeal, but appealing of change of income? Yeah,
definitely. For those appeals for changes in income or additional costs, if you're on the screenshot here, there's forms and resources. If you click on, you can't click on it because of the screenshot, but if you click on that, there's a forms page, and then there's a link to 25-26. And the 24-25 ones, I think, are still out there. Just make sure you, I'm not sure if you'd even have the option of submitting them, but usually those become available later in the summer and are processed starting in the summer and then going into the fall quarter. Generally, we recommend, because our initial focus is on getting initial financial aid packages out there, that generally the offer that you have going in is going to be your offer for the fall fee deadline. And they're processed in order received. We get several hundred of those appeals. So It does take some time to work through those, but anything that you may get for fall quarter as a result of that is going to be retroactively posted. So let's say you pay your full fall balance and then you do a student aid index appeal because you had a loss of income and now you're eligible for some grant money. That's going to post, the fall portion will post to your student account. Even if your account balance is zero, you're still going to get that money. But generally that's, yeah, later, early in the fall or during the fall quarter. Our goal is to get those done earlier, but based on workload, our priority is definitely getting those initial financial aid packages out for the fall first.
And in terms of those forms, we have another question in the chat about this.
Yeah.
Do they need to submit any kind of form stating that they're living with a parent or living on housing? Is that something that they need to state in order to get that cost of aid amount?
If you're looking to increase your budget because you are, I mean, I guess it depends on the reason that you're appealing. So if you have
not an appeal, but they're saying that they were planning to house one way and then transition to another, rather than
like
an appeal. How are they responsible for telling the financial aid office what they're doing?
Yeah, so if you go to that, on this screenshot, there's housing, then there's the FAQ, there's a question on how do I change my housing status. You can follow the instructions on there. If we also, and separately, we also communicate with our housing office. So if we had a student who lives, who says that they're living off campus, but then we're told by the housing office you're living on campus, then we're going to go with that information. But yes, generally you would want to, if there's going to be a change in your housing status, you would you would submit that update to our office, and we have our student portal set up where you can select the option to report a change in your housing. But yeah, so separate from appeals, changes in your housing status, there's three: there's living on campus, off campus, or with parent. So you're, in terms of the financial aid, you're going to be one of those three. But generally, we default to starting off with living on campus when we put the initial financial aid offers out there. But if you notice it's wrong, report that update to us, yeah.
And then I have those were my like kind of wide scale questions that many folks were asking. Let's see, there are some more niche ones there in the chat. What I might do, since we're down to our last couple minutes, is end recording, and then if there's ones in the chat that you either want to just address out loud or type answers to, we've hit really our big general overviews. Yeah.
Well, one thing that I see one about outside scholarships affecting your financial aid, because that's a really good question that impacts things. So if students can't receive more money than the cost of attendance. So we need to make room in your financial aid package for any outside money. Generally, we find out about that outside money when the checks arrive on campus. So generally, we'll start reducing any subsidized loan or work study before we touch any other financial aid. We're never going to touch your Pell, but we're going to, in most cases, there's part of your financial aid in our, the way we determine the financial aid is all students have, it's called a self-help component that we fill with loans and then work study as well too. So before touching any other money, let's say you say I have $1,000 scholarship coming in, we're going to reduce that money to make room in your financial aid package before touching any of your grant money. Now, if you have, I guess, once it exceeds that, that's when your university grant may be subject to change. But federal regulations say that we can't go over your cost of attendance. So depending on what your financial aid package looks like, yes, it's possible that your aid could be adjusted to make room for outside scholarships that are coming in. But we're always going to start with reducing the need-based component of your aid, the need-based, like subsidized loan, like over a scholarship. So generally we'll work those over the summer as they come in. And then, but if the scholarship was to come in during the fall quarter, it's possible aid may be billed. It kind of depends on the timing of when we get that come in. So, but that's a really good question. Just kind of running through, I guess, do we have to accept our loan offers when it comes in, or can we accept the loans later in the year? If you can accept the loans later in the year, even if you decline it, you can come back and ask, can I still accept it later on? Definitely. Let's see. And I guess something to keep in mind too, based on where we are funding wise right now, with the state and with federal as well too, and institutional, those deadlines, then the document deadlines we have are going to impact your federal aid. The state has their own deadlines, so it's up to them if they want to waive them for Cal Grant or things like that. But we are, funding wise, those deadlines are probably going to be harder for our institutional money. You can always reach out and based on your unusual circumstance, and we can try and work with you. For the registering for the document submission account on TridentLink, if there's nothing to submit, you don't need to register. But if you want to submit an appeal, you're going to have to register for the document submission tool. It's a question about UC to UC transfer, calling the UC tuition flat until you graduate, or up to 6 years. That's for the tuition and fee portion, the system-wide fees, that's correct. The student should pay the same tuition if they're enrolled in UC, which is, yeah, some of these are a bit specific, so probably if it gets too specific, if you try to submit something or you have a specific question, I would recommend contacting us directly. Someone mentioned summer tuition varies in comparison to the quarters. Can you explain that further? I think best bet's going to our summer sessions website. Unlike the regular school year, anyone can attend summer if you're admitted or not, and it's charged per unit. So that's a pretty big difference between the regular year and the academic year. CalFEP fee waivers, anything VA, California veterans, that's actually going to go, there's the session that's coming up, I think it was June 26th for the VA. We have a separate VA certifying office. They're the ones that take in the paperwork, certify, and financial aid's kind of last on the list. So once we get the information, we'll put the offer as part of your financial aid package. Just to keep in mind though, again, like scholarships, you can't receive more aid than the cost of attendance, and you can't receive 2 fee-paying awards. So if you have a Cal Grant or a VA waiver and they're both for tuition and fees, you can only get one. So those can impact your financial aid package, and then depending on the timing, it might be a swap out. So, but I would reserve, there's the VA certifying officials at the registrar's office are the ones that you'll be working with. And I think we're running out of time, but so I just kind of started reading questions.
Yes, I think a lot of the ones that we have left here are again going to be those more specific ones. So
Yeah.
for our folks who are left, they do have virtual office hours. So this isn't your last opportunity to meet face to face with somebody. Those virtual office hours are fantastic. From someone who sometimes sits with students and supports them, I really recommend hopping on towards the beginning of those hours versus trying to hop in those last 15 minutes, because the wait can sometimes stack up. I recommend if you're going to be sitting around the house doing chores and have something else to do, if you're waiting, that's a great time to do it. But it does get you face-to-face access. And that's going to be on that FAS website, and they happen pretty frequently. So I don't want to take too much of Bronwyn's time in terms of answering these very specific ones. So with that, I think we have what we need for today, and please continue to ask your questions in that FAS one-on-one chat, or via the email or their contact form. There are plenty of folks in our financial aid office who are going to continue to support. This is our large-scale overview. So thank you so much, Bronwyn. Everyone who's here, our recording will be getting to you by end of day today, as we will be out tomorrow. So we will get that processing, and it might take us about an hour or so. So we'll send that soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.